Today I'm making a hot process soap. So I started out with a crock pot. I got this crock pot at the Goodwill, so don't go and buy like a brand new one. Try your Goodwill or your thrift store. This thing was $15 and it doesn't have the size on it, but it's basically one of those crock pots that could fit a whole chicken. So it's pretty big, but they had smaller ones. So definitely check out with your local stores, like your local thrift store or Goodwill, to get a crock pot. But I started by putting the oils and butters in the crock pot and I put them on high heat to kind of melt them a little bit quicker. Plus, with hot process soap, you want to be on like the hotter side of things. Like, you don't want your temperatures to be room temperature. That's not what you want with hot process soap. You want like 120, 130, 150, 160, like all those temperatures are okay. So I went ahead and allowed those to melt in the high heat. I'm doing a lemongrass soap, so I figured I'd throw in some yellow Brazilian clay just to kind of keep with that. And I put the color in the oils. That way I can stick blend and get my full color without it reaching trace, which really that's just one of my cold process methods because I don't want to over trace the soap or, get it too thick. But with hot process, it's going to get thick. So it really doesn't matter. But putting it there in the beginning makes it a lot easier to add your color rather than waiting till the soap is fully cooked. It's harder then. So then I add the lye solution in there and I have it on low heat at this point. And I am going to stick blend until I get like a medium trace, at least like minimum a light trace. But I stick blend until at least I get a medium trace. So I made this soap at night and I took like some little time stamps just so you guys can see how quickly or how long it takes to reach the different stages. So I started stick blending around 9:30. And then, like I said, I stick blend until I reached a medium trace. I didn't really count to see how long that took, but it was probably just like a few minutes. And then after that, I started to get a volcano. So I'll come back and show you when I got the volcano. So just note that I started stick blending at 9:30. I stick blended until I reached the medium trace, which as you can see is right there. And then I got a volcano at 9:46. So what is that? 16 minutes. So like really hot process really isn't that long of a process. It's really similar to cold process soap. So stay tuned and you'll see that volcano soon. But I do like to clean up the edges because I really don't like the crusty part of hot process soap. I mean, as you can see, I'm still gonna get it, but I figured this would minimize it by scraping the sides. You can also spray like isopropyl alcohol on the sides to kind of keep those smooth and keep them down in there. But I didn't do that. I just figured let me go as natural as possible with nothing additional. So here I am. This is the 9:46 starting to get that volcano. So now it's going into like that mashed potato stage. So I'm just trying to stir because I want to make sure that it evenly cooks. And I'm also stirring to avoid the little crusty bits, but they are inevitable. So they will be there, but I'm going to minimize them as much as possible. So yeah, now I'm in like that mashed potato stage. So this took 16 minutes from stick blending to volcano was 16 minutes, but I was not stick blending the whole time. I only stick blend until I got to that medium trace. Then here I got the big volcano. This was at 9:55. So from 9:46, I stirred for maybe like a minute, and then I left. I came back at 9:55, and I had this big volcano. So now we got like that thick mashed potatoes. So we're getting closer to that Vaseline stage. So I just clean up the edges, trying to again avoid some of those crusties. So I'm just stirring it in there and also making sure that it cooks evenly. And then I'm going to cover it. Now, there are some soapers who say, oh, make sure you put saran wrap on to lock in the heat. I didn't do that. And this crock pot is really good with heat. So I really didn't have that issue at all. So I was able to uncover it when I needed to. Like I said, at those timestamps to stir it up, but like it was fine. So now it is at the Vaseline stage, and this is at 10:09. So from 9:55 to 10:09, so was that 14 minutes? So after the big volcano, 14 minutes later, I got my Vaseline stage. So here is where I add in my lemongrass essential oil, and it's really good to check the temperatures before you add it in to make sure the temperature is My rule of thumb is always 170 degrees. I've seen others say 180, but I like to make sure that the soap is 170 degrees or less when I add the essential oil. I did take the temperature, but for whatever reason, didn't record it. So I always make sure it's at least 170. You can look at the flash points for your different essential oil or fragrance oil to see what the flash point is and make sure that you are pouring it in at a temperature lower than that. But I think like good rule of thumb is 170 degrees. So then I'm just kind of spooning all the soap out. That's how it works with hot process. Like even though this is still kind of like I don't want to say silky, but it's not as fluid, but it's not like really really thick either. So it works out by adding that essential oil at the end to make sure you get somewhat of a fluid batter, but you still have to spoon it out because that's just the way hot process soap works. So as I'm spooning it out, I am also like pressing down to make sure that I'm not getting any holes in the soap. So after I do a roll, I'm gonna like press down so that I can avoid getting any like little spots of holes in the soap and making sure that the soap is kind of evenly pressed because that's the thing with hot process. You do have to press it to make sure you compress it. The other thing I will note that I should have mentioned at the beginning is that I did use a water discount. There are, quite a few soapers that'll say, no, don't use a water discount because you'll have a more fluid batter. And I'm sure that's true. But if anybody knows my story, then they know that when I learned how to make soap, everything was on a water discount simply because I just didn't know. I was following Lovely Greens, Tanya with Lovely Greens, and pretty much all the recipes that she had on her blogs were with water discount. And that was just the part that I never just glossed over. I never really noticed that. So I've always pretty much just been under pressure when making soap. So I kept the water discount. I still got a decent fluid to my batter. So you can definitely make hot process soap with a water discount. I cut it. So I made this at like, I started at 9:30 p.m. I cut this around like 8:30-ish a.m. So whatever the math is on that. So definitely not a full 24 hours. It was still a little soft, but not too bad. Like I said, I do have the little crusties on the top, but the inside of the bar was pretty smooth. So I was really impressed with it. It looks really nice. I even thought about like piping some soap on the top to get rid of that rustic look, but some people like it. I'm not one of those people, but some people like it. So I figure, you know what? I'll just keep it, take it to the markets and see how it goes. But that's how I made this soap with hot process. If you're looking for someone to give you like a step-by-step guide on how to make hot process, cold process, or melting pour soap, I'll have a link to my private classes in the comments below. But please also keep in mind that I do have a free course. It is on cold process soap that you can take at any time. So check that out in the comments as well.